Welcome back to the deep dive.
Okay, today we're opening a file that's really something else. It sits right at this murky intersection of history, espionage, and, well, devastating political betrayal.
Yeah, it's a heavy one.
Our focus is Mehdi Ben Barka, a figure often described as, the great political hope for Morocco. He was a math prodigy, a key architect of Third World revolutionary solidarity,
hmm
and his journey just ended abruptly. Vanished in broad daylight on a Paris street back in October 1965.
Right, and this deep dive, it isn't just about a cold case, is it? It's really about understanding the high price of global ambition in the mid-20th century.
Okay.
We're using the source material to trace the arc of this man who went from, the traditional Rabat Medina
Mhm.
all the way to the inner circles of revolutionaries like Che Guevara.
Incredible journey.
His life story, it really captures that whole anti-colonial struggle, the rise of post-independence African power, and also the, frankly, brutal consolidation of the Moroccan monarchy.
So we're looking at what made him so valuable, but also such a threat. Exactly. Such an existential target for so many world powers.
And the sources, they paint this picture of a man full of contradictions, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
You've got the intellectual, the tireless organizer, but then he was often described as cold, calculated, maybe even tyrannical by his own comrades.
Yeah, that comes through. A complex guy.
A diplomat playing on the world stage, but also maybe surprisingly vulnerable, perhaps a bit naive about his own safety.
And that tension, that's precisely why the story is still so compelling, I think. His disappearance, it was just so audacious, right in the heart of France.
Unbelievable.
And it implicated French organized crime, high-level Moroccan security chiefs, elements within French intelligence. I mean, the fallout even embarrassed President Charles de Gaulle himself.
It affected the highest levels of government.
Yeah, it's a real masterpiece of geopolitical chaos.
Okay, let's unpack that. Let's start with the early life of this brilliant maverick. Ben Barka was a complex product of Morocco under French protection.
Right, he absorbed both worlds, born in the Rabat Medina traditional setting, but then he benefited from the French colonial education system.
And excelled.
Oh, he didn't just benefit, he excelled so profoundly, he kind of shattered its limits. An academic prodigy. He became the first Moroccan ever to get the baccalaureate in mathematical sciences with the highest honors.
Wow.
Think about that. It wasn't just personal achievement, it was a potent political symbol at the time.
And he didn't just, sit on that intellectual power. He jumped into the nationalist movement really young, at 14.
Straight in.
And by 24, he was one of the youngest signatories of that absolutely pivotal 1944 Manifesto of Independence.
And that intellectual drive, it was just relentless. The sources have this incredible detail, right? During his detentions in the 40s and early 50s,
Yeah.
he consumed books at such a rate, I mean, just devoured them, that the prison authorities, when they moved him, literally had to attach a trailer to the Jeep just to carry his reading material.
A trailer for books. That's amazing, like a mobile library just to keep up with him in detention.
It's quite the image, isn't it? That combination, the intellect and that fiery conviction, it clearly gave him immense personal charisma. But you mentioned the sources summarized him with this odd phrase, an inimitable mixture of Lenin and Edgar Fowry.
Yeah, that's a striking comparison.
A political economist known for structure and a master political survivor. What does that specific blend tell us about how he operated?
Well, I think it tells us he was reaching for the absolute, that Leninist drive for revolutionary structure, command, getting things done. But he tempered it with Fowry's pragmatism, the diplomatic maneuvering.
So, okay, the practical side.
Yeah, he could address and inspire the humblest people, the masses, but also mobilize the organized youth, which was crucial. But that same drive, that duality, it also fed his impatience.
He apparently believed he was always a length ahead of his comrades. And he once actually stated, "Liberty is a lure we cannot afford today. Let's change and build first. We'll see about the rest later." Oof. That reveals someone willing to be, well, a bit tyrannical if it meant dragging Morocco into modernity now. Right. The ends justifying the means, perhaps, in his view.
So post-independence, 1956, how did he translate that intellectual impatience into actual political power?
He quickly became a central figure. President of the National Consultative Assembly, Secretary of Organization for the main nationalist party, Istiqlal.
Bing roles.
Huge. And his blueprint was radical for the time. An immediate constituent assembly, large-scale agrarian reform, get all foreign bases out fast.
Ambitious.
Very. And his strategic genius was in organizing the masses. Under his guidance, Istiqlal really managed to infiltrate and mobilize the powerful urban working class, especially in Casablanca.
That's serious political organizing.
Yeah.
But he didn't just stick to paperwork, did he?
Right.
He used actual physical projects to build this new kind of citizen. Tell us about the root of unity.
The root of unity. Yes, 1957. That was central to his philosophy and just a brilliant PR move, too, cementing his image as a doer.
Well, what was it exactly?
He mobilized 11,000 young volunteers to physically build a 60-kilometer road. Now, yes, it was infrastructure, but its main purpose was political.
How?
It was meant to be a school for the new citizen militant, emphasizing community building, rural development, hands-on nation building. Very different from, say, the rapid top-down industrialization ideas favored by some other revolutionaries at the time, like maybe parts of the FLN in Algeria.
Interesting contrast. This bold vision, though,
Yeah.
a modern, popular, organized Morocco, it inevitably clashed with the existing power structure, right? Specifically, the palace. How did that fight escalate?
Yeah, it became pretty much impossible to contain the tension. It led to a major split within Istiqlal. Ben Barka goes off and forms the National Union of Popular Forces, the UNFP, in 1959.
With a clear goal.
Absolutely. Establish a real democracy within a constitutional monarchy, which, meant seriously curbing the absolute power of the king.
And the main antagonist there was Prince Hassan, later King Hassan II.
He was the key figure in the opposition, yes. Hassan saw Ben Barka's ambition, especially his moves to politically control institutions like the Liberation Army, as a fundamental and existential threat to the monarchy itself.
It sounds like the monarchy just saw him as someone they couldn't control, couldn't manage.
Pretty much. He was too independent, too popular, pushing too hard for structural change.
So after this alleged 1963 plot, which landed him a death sentence in absentia, he's forced into exile. But instead of fading away, he actually expands his influence massively.
Exactly. He pivots. He transforms from being primarily a domestic threat to Morocco into a global one. He becomes, as some called him, the traveling salesman of the revolution.
Catchy title.
Isn't it? He dedicates himself to Maghreb unity, but also, crucially, to this broader idea of third worldism, traveling constantly, working to organize that pivotal tricontinental conference planned for Havana in '66.
That conference sounds like a huge deal, trying to unify all anti-imperialist movements, a kind of non-aligned counterforce to both the Soviets and the Americans.
It was enormous, and it's a real testament to his diplomatic skill, his reach, that he actually managed to convince Beijing.
Which was fiercely opposed to Moscow then.
Fiercely. He convinced them to accept Soviet presence at the conference. That shows you the kind of geopolitical chess he was playing.
Incredible.
And this intellectual authority meant figures like Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, they sought him out. They consulted him specifically on the political economy needed for successful revolutionary transitions.
So he wasn't just a Moroccan leader anymore.
Uh-huh.
He was positioning himself as a kind of global revolutionary philosopher.
That's a good way to put it. He was operating on that level.
Okay, so we have this figure of global significance operating at the highest diplomatic and ideological levels, and yet he walks right into a fatal trap in the middle of Paris in 1965. How did he let himself become so vulnerable? It seems contradictory.
It really does. And the sources show a man who seems quite divided in those last months. Back in Morocco, the king declares a state of exception in June '65, confirming the political deadlock.
Right.
Ben Barka still seemed to hold out hope for some kind of compromise, this October rendezvous he apparently planned with Hassan II.
You're right.
Maybe that pragmatism we talked about.
Or maybe wishful thinking.
Perhaps. Yet, at the same time, he was clearly paranoid. He carried a gun, used disguises, and, crucially, he'd already moved his family permanently out of the country. He knew the risks.
The setup itself was intricate, wasn't it? It exploited his dedication to the cause. Lured to Paris for a supposed film project about decolonization.
Exactly. A topic perfectly designed to grab his interest. October 29th, 1965.
And the setup was facilitated by some shady characters.
Oh, yes. A notorious French crook, Georges Fagan, and a journalist of, let's say, dubious affiliation, Philippe Bernier. Ben Barka was near the famous Lip Brasserie when he was intercepted.
And the method they used was key to getting him to comply, right?
Absolutely key. He was kidnapped by actual French police officers, Le Rafinville and Souchon, and they showed him their official ID cards.
So he trusted them.
He likely submitted because he trusted the apparatus of the French state. Maybe thought he was being taken into protective custody or for some official discussion. He couldn't have known he was being handed over.
But he was heading straight into a trap house, literally.
Precisely. Transported to a suburban home in Fontenay-le-Vicomte. It belonged to a man named Antoine Lopez, who was significantly a French intelligence operative.
Ah, the plot thickens.
Deepens, yeah. Sources confirm he was taken down to the cellar, tied to a boiler, and then interrogated directly by Morocco's interior minister, the infamous General Oufkir, and his security chief, Colonel Delimi.
And the interrogation itself proved fatal, almost immediately.
That's what the sources strongly suggest. His death likely occurred during that interrogation, possibly due to him resisting, or perhaps the struggle aggravated a pre-existing spinal injury he had.
It was quick.
Seems so. Swift, brutal, and crucially, ensuring his body would never be found. No corpse, no definitive proof, no state having to officially account for it.
But the investigation that followed, the affair Ben Barka, it blew the lid off this horrifying chain of command, didn't it? It wasn't just two Moroccan officials acting alone. The complicity ran much, much deeper.
Oh, it was multi-layered. That's exactly why it caused such a political earthquake in France. We can sort of break down the layers based on the sources.
Okay, first, obviously, the Moroccan state apparatus. General Oufkir, Colonel Delumi, carrying out the operation, likely on orders from the very top, King Hassan II, Layer 1. Second, you have French intelligence and security. This Antoine Lopez, the guy whose house it was, he was an agent of the SDEC, the French External Intelligence Service. He provided the safe house, the logistics, and he had connections.
Yeah, he often worked through his friend, a well-known French gangster named Georges Bouchassich, so state intelligence agents and organized crime.
Working hand in glove on French soil. That sounds like an absolute nightmare for the French government.
And it gets even more complicated. The third layer seems to involve French high-level connections. Figures like Pierre Le Marchand, who was linked to Figan, the crook involved in the lure. This suggested connections, or at least turning a blind eye, within Gaullist political circles.
Wow, so potential negligence or even tacit approval way up high?
That was the implication that caused so much trouble. And finally, the sources also mentioned potential external interference, allegations of Mossad assistance being offered to Oufkir's team.
Israeli intelligence? Why?
Possibly in exchange for intelligence cooperation from Morocco. And some lawyers involved in the case later insisted on American involvement too, though the details there remain much cloudier. So you've got this toxic mix. Moroccan state killers, French intelligence operatives, French gangsters, possibly Israeli and American shadows in the background, all converging on this one man in Paris. It's an astonishing confluence of interests.
No wonder President de Gaulle was reportedly so enraged. He must have seen this as a complete violation of French sovereignty.
Absolutely furious is the report. He called the whole affair vulgaire et subalterne, vulgar and subordinate, low-level, dirty work happening under his nose. He viewed it as a grave personal affront.
And the consequences were real.
Oh, yes. The scandal totally discredited the French security services, led to major internal shakeups, and significantly, it seems to have contributed to de Gaulle's weaker-than-expected showing in the December 1965 presidential election, a domestic political disaster triggered by an international assassination on French soil.
Incredible fallout. Yet despite the brutality of his end, Ben Barka remains this powerful, enduring symbol, doesn't he? He is, as one source put it, the eternal adolescent of old Rabat, who somehow won the ultimate fight just by staying alive in memory.
Yeah, his murder didn't silence his political vision in a way.
Looking back at the whole tragedy, what does Ben Barka's murder really signify on that global stage?
I think it marks the definitive end of a certain era, that initial post-colonial hope, the high-minded ideals of revolutionary solidarity, Pan-Africanism, Third Worldism. It feels like they died with him on that day.
Replaced by what?
Replaced abruptly by the cold, hard reality of raison d'etat, state interest, where sheer power, national security logic, even criminality if necessary, dictates political survival, especially in places like North Africa consolidating power. The gloves came off.
And his own contradictory nature feels like the perfect final image. The intellectual, demanding a library in jail, seeking the political absolute, yet proving tragically vulnerable. Maybe because he still believed in rational compromise in a world that was already playing by much dirtier rules. And that belief, that contradiction, it raises a really important question for you, the listener, to think about. Ben Barka, he was described as a staunch legalist. He genuinely seemed to believe that a functional compromise with the monarchy was possible, that October rendezvous. But given this vast, complex network of interests we've discussed, local criminals, Moroccan security, French intelligence, maybe Mossad, maybe the CIA, international revolutionary movements he was tied to, all converging to eliminate him, Was compromise ever truly a realistic option?
Or was his fate sealed?
Exactly. Or was his death effectively programmed from the moment his vision grew beyond Morocco's borders and started challenging global power structures? Was there ever really another way out for him? A powerful and chilling note to end on. That is the question we leave you with today. We appreciate you taking this deep dive with us. We'll see you next time.